You play to win the game.
You live in the heart of Lincoln, America.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
On air and online at theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Jake Bakoven and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
Happy Tuesday to the Ticketverse out there. This is the Ticket Water Cooler. I am Jake Bakoven. He is Enrique Alvarez Clary, as the big man, the big boys just said, but I like to repeat it just in case you didn't hear it. And we will have a great show lined up for you. Lots to talk about.
Don't put the expectations so high there, Bob.
We have a mediocre show planned out for you.
Okay, well, that's too low. We have a show.
We have a show, and it may be good, it may be bad, but we'll just keep going with it. It can't be too bad because there's plenty to with TC.
Bats.com. Bats harass wildlife control and
Good morning. It's quiet, not in a weird, too quiet way. Calm, peaceful, tranquil. You pour yourself a cup of coffee. You slice yourself a hearty chunk of one of Beatrice Bakery's breakfast breads. Now, maybe you're an apple streusel guy. Nothing wrong with that. I can respect that. Personally, I'm a turtle nut man. Something about those pecans. But the real ones know, don't sleep on that date nut bread. Sweet, but not too sweet. Nutty, not overly. The perfect morning treat. Beatrice Bakery. Online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
Mike Shaver here for Trek CBD. It's basketball season, and that means you're fighting cold weather and snow to get to the arena, waiting for lines at the game, and yelling too much at the refs. Trek CBD has a variety of products to help calm me down during the game so I don't go over the top. And they have a variety of options to calm you down before, during, and after any game. Whether you're looking for drinkable Delta 8 seltzers, hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups for your beverages, or anything else, Trek CBD has it all at 84th and Anderson. Trek CBD, CBD done right.
Imagine your next staff meeting. Now imagine your next staff meeting with a side of ribs. Your next client presentation, or that same client presentation with brisket and baked beans. It's better, right? Let Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul take care of all of your business catering needs. Feed the staff, cater your next event, whatever you need, Mary Ellen's can help. They can even host your events in their brand new event space located right next to the restaurant. Go see for yourself. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake or online at maryellens.com. Let them fix you a plate.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler, brought to you by Wingstop on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
As we watched the national championship yesterday, there was a lot of stuff to kind of break down around college football. One, how about a commitment during the middle of the national championship game for Nebraska? That was kind of surprising.
I mean, he chose the right championship game to do it at because this game sucked. So there was something.
Well, if you were cheering for TCU, it sucked. For me, I kind of enjoyed it. I rather had fun with it.
Nah, still boring. Even if you're a Georgia fan, like, you're having fun because they're scoring, but at the same time, you're like, man, I wonder if we'll stop them. Oh no.
I did kind of feel bad because, with all this, I mean, this was definitely one of those games where it's like the all-time stats start coming out. How does this compare to other all-time blowouts for championships and stuff? And I saw the stat that Nebraska, the Rose Bowl in 2001, that was the only championship game. And again, I think this is BCS college football championship game that had a bigger deficit at halftime than last night. Like, we all knew last night Georgia won at halftime.
Georgia won in the first quarter.
Yeah. But Miami was up 34-0 on Nebraska last time they were in a national championship game. So you kind of feel the pain of the rest of the nation. Kind of go,
Nebraska, still relevant.
Nebraska I enjoyed, part of the reason I enjoyed the broadcast is because Nebraska got a lot of run.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of fun.
Shout out to Georgia for going back-to-back and getting Nebraska a lot of pub.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think it probably, to a younger audience, just kind of woke, they're like, Nebraska, really?
Wow, Nebraska used to be good? That's crazy.
Now,
hopefully, Georgia doesn't go 3 in a row because nobody's ever done that in
far.
the modern era of college football.
Yeah.
And
they're favorites to win next
that would
year.
just ruin everything for everyone.
It'd be weird, too, because unless they, really have a dynamic year, I don't think that these are the type of teams that you argue as some of the best of all time. So it'd be like a best 3-year stretch without, individually having a best of all time. Now, maybe next year they'll be absolutely.
No, they've got amazing athletes that are getting, drafted extremely high and having productive NFL careers. But in terms of, college best team, like they're not even. I don't think they're even close. Like last year they had a loss. They had a more talented team than this year's team.
Yeah.
But last year they had a loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game, ended up avenging that loss in the national title game. But I wouldn't put them up there with one of the best teams ever.
Well, and again, I think part of it too is just the schedule you play. They didn't play a conference champion this year,
which is weird.
It's strange how it works out that way, but they didn't. On their way to a national championship. Of course, Ohio State and TCU both.
They practiced against themselves.
That's true.
So that counts.
I always say that. That's the best part of the mid-90s Huskers was their toughest.
There you go.
Practices were against.
So not only did they play a conference champion, they played a national champion.
A defending
every day that they weren't playing someone else.
Yeah.
There you go.
But like we were saying during the broadcast, Billy Kemp, of course, the wide receiver transfer, had visited Nebraska. He actually got an extra year because of the unfortunate events that happened at Virginia University. Was just going to go to the draft. Ended up wanting to have one more year, and so he searched around a little bit and commits to Nebraska, and immediately becomes their most experienced wide receiver as far as yards and production goes.
Yes. He played 3 productive years at Virginia. Sans this last year. But he's 5'9", 170. You can say he's going to be Nebraska's number one receiver, whatever that means to you, maybe the most targeted or whatever, but he's not going to be, your outside threat.
Yeah.
More than likely. He'll more than likely be in the slot. And it's a great addition. I'm not taking anything away from him. He was extremely his junior season at Virginia was his most productive, where he had 6 touchdowns and something like 600 yards. 725.
Yeah.
So he's like you said, he's experienced, he's productive, and out of every wide receiver on the roster currently, probably the most yards in college.
Oh, I think without a doubt. I think Marcus Washington. He's well over 1,700 yards. I don't even know what second place would be. Washington probably has 700 or something.
The Baylor transfer. Is he a running back or a wide receiver?
Fleeks.
Yeah, Josh Fleeks.
Yeah, he's
like both.
He's not a stat stuffer in that way either. That's what kind of differentiates Billy Kemp. This is immediate impact starter type of grab. Now, there's one thing that kind of stands out too is that from 2 years ago, like you said, his junior year. When Brennan Armstrong was throwing the ball over the yard,
slinging it,
had a great year. Last year, that Virginia did not do that, and Brennan Armstrong fell off the map tremendously. Actually, to the point where he transferred to North Carolina State this offseason. Kemp only had 16 receptions for 116 yards. His availability seemed to be kind of spotty, so that's interesting. It's still not, and Trey Palmer didn't have any. Really all that much.
Trey Palmer was like 5th on the depth chart.
Significantly less stats than Billy Kemp even has, but it still feels like if you're looking for, the star of the recruiting class, I think he could be up there. But as far as the transfer portal goes, but I don't know. I guess I don't expect him to be an all-conference player, but certainly helps you out immediately. And I'm excited to see what he can bring to Nebraska. Let's head to Will on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Will, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. What do you think today?
So earlier I heard you guys talking about how all the Southern teams are winning except for Ohio State, of course. So I'm a touring musician, and I played this venue in Columbus, Ohio called the Newport Music Hall. And you want to know where we ate lunch?
Where?
Waffle House, right next door.
Oh, there you go, out in Ohio.
Oh, no.
So you mentioned that all these southern states have Waffle Houses, so maybe Nebraska needs one, and we can be relevant again.
Obviously, that's the only thing differentiating Nebraska from all the southern states is a Waffle House.
Hey, Ohio caught on. All right, thanks for the call.
Well, Ohio.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you. So Ohio has Waffle Houses. Ohio is South now. I don't make the rules. Actually, I do.
So the South has now won all the titles.
The South has now won all the titles since 2000.
Also, someone wanted to correct us that Jerry Taggy did win both titles.
Yes,
so
I saw that.
Shout out to Jerry Taggy.
Okay, so maybe it was just quarterbacks winning back-to-back since the 90s.
It was. I mean, they were. That's
it was a weird cutoff.
It was
in 2030.
especially
Do they
weird.
not include the 90s?
That's what my fear is. At some point, that
Every 10 years.
at some point they're just going to cut Nebraska off, and I think it's going to be sooner
It's
than not
dangerous.
because they're going to go from the BCS era. For most of their stats was BCS era on,
Mhm.
but some of their stats are like, we just want to include the 90s Huskers. So
Nebraska, you gotta get back to
so
it.
since 1990,
You're in danger.
yeah, got to
Danger
win
of not-
national titles.
Yeah, you're in danger of not being talked about anymore.
But it was beautiful to see Nebraska up there.
It really was.
Yeah.
The
Remind you of yesteryear.
the image of Tommy Frazier, whatever
Yeah.
it is, the fake image. He was also part of the pregame thing.
Yeah, which was
It was
also
like really quick though.
It was, and it was also like I've seen that tape before. I don't know if it was an ESPN, like he's done that interview on top of Memorial Stadium or in the Memorial Stadium for other like documentaries. I don't know if that was just part of that as well, or if they brought him back in like, hey, we liked where we shot last time.
Let's just keep it there.
Just have them meet up at the same spot.
Good for him.
I'm not sure, but either way, it was good. Again, I think for a younger generation to see that Nebraska, at one time was that team. That's what the kind of feeling is too. It's like if you want to know what it was like for the mid '90s Huskers, and there's nothing that's completely similar, but Georgia's going through that now. I mean, that's what they are the mid '90s Huskers in their program. That's what spot they're at there in their program history. And I also want to argue this too: is Brock Bowers the best tight end that you've seen play college ball? I think he's got another year. He can't go to the NFL.
Yeah.
You probably heard that. He's got to be right up there.
He's the best. He's the best tight end. And people, I saw, I think Fox Sports like tweeted out a picture of him out of pads, and they're like, if you saw this guy, you wouldn't believe that he's the best tight end in college football. And a bunch of Notre Dame fans came saying, oh, that doesn't look like whatever their tight end's
Michael
name is.
Mayer or whatever.
Yeah, Michael Mayer. And I was like, well, he's better than Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
So of course he doesn't.
Well, I'm
look
not
like
saying
him.
now. I'm saying since you started watching college football.
Oh, since I started watching,
Yeah,
no.
best tight ends of all time. Who's your best tight end you've seen?
Aaron Hernandez.
Well, he would have an argument. His stats don't line up with Brock's.
No. So in college, tight end.
Yeah.
TJ
Hawkinson?
No.
Jeremy Shockey?
Florida. He plays for the
Kyle
Falcons.
Pitts.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have an argument. He doesn't have 2 titles.
He doesn't. Well, if you're just going off a title, I mean,
Well, I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about the best, I mean, he's got to be
Tim Tebow.
right there. The best tight
Tim
end.
Tebow's the best tight end
He
I've
played a little
ever
tight
seen.
end. Eric says Keith Jackson from Oklahoma, best tight end ever, watches tapes. I mean, if you go that far back, it might. But
Well, it's got to be that I've seen. I didn't see
Yeah.
Keith Jackson, and it doesn't count if I watch the tapes. If I watch it on the YouTubes, I had to have seen it. It had to have happened.
lived through it.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson was great.
That's
Noah
why
Fant was great.
I go back to like the Jeremy Shockey and Kellen Winslow group, but
Ooh,
I don't think
that's a
they
good
quite
group.
had the numbers that Brock Bowers had. I mean, I'm thinking it's
You can't just
gotta be
go
right
off of
there.
titles. You got to go off of numbers. If you guys are just going off titles, then you work with the best tight end in college football history.
That's correct. Yeah, VJ. Is Brock Bowers as good as VJ? Well, I'm just saying, I think that's got to be considered in there because what I'm saying is his numbers are there. He had like 970 yards receiving this year. Had even more touchdowns last year, but still, in Georgia, this is the type of team that didn't play all of their fourth quarters.
In the national championship game, he just seemed like he was always open.
Yeah.
Just whenever you needed to play, and Stetson Bennett just kind of throws it across the middle. It takes the camera a little bit to catch up. All of a sudden, there's Brock Bowers catching it, breaking a tackle, and getting the first down. TCU could not tackle last night, and it really bothered me.
Yeah.
Like, they were so physical against Michigan, and then in this one, they just didn't. They were avoiding contact.
It's crazy to even think of those as the same teams because when we left the Michigan game, that was the talk was like, oh, this is TCU's team. This is a team. I mean, they've got some athletes. This is great. And then after you walk away from Georgia, it's like, well, they just don't have the Jimmies and Joes to compete with Georgia.
I was like, they have, I said it before yesterday. I was like, they have the ability to stretch you out or run the ball and be physical. And they couldn't do either one of those.
Yeah.
Georgia did to TCU what I thought they would do to Ohio State and just dominate them physically. Because you saw Michigan take down Ohio State with physicality, just out physicaling them. And Georgia was spread out against Ohio State, and I thought, oh, TCU is able to spread the ball out, but they're also able to play the type of ball that beat Ohio State. Ohio State should have beaten Georgia, but they didn't. So I thought it would be a closer game, and then Georgia was like, hey, we're better than you.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, here's the thing with Ohio State, that game included now with the playoffs. Well, there's a few things that I come out of that. I think that Georgia-Ohio State game is now the best game we've had in college football playoff era. And you might even argue Michigan-TCU, but for historical significance.
Those are the two best.
Yeah. Well, I liked the Rose Bowl a few years ago with Georgia and Oklahoma, but then Georgia lost. So you just kind of, as you move forward, it's like the championships matter.
The Clemson-Alabama national title.
Yeah, that was sure
Renfro catching the game-winning touchdown.
That's got to be up there. So, I have that in consideration. The other thing is like Georgia
Tua coming in to save the day.
Georgia, that's an all-timer. At championship games, there's been some really good ones. But Georgia too is. I saw this and I kind of agree with it. They won back-to-back. They could be the first team to win 3 in a row. But if Jamison Williams is healthy and Marvin Harrison Jr. stay healthy throughout those games, they might not have any titles.
If their kicker doesn't, uncharacteristically shank it.
Yeah.
Georgia's not there.
It's interesting. It's always a game of inches, even in the games that it's 65-7. It's a season. There can be games of inches in between the season.
Well, I mean,
last night was not a game of inches.
TCU could have stayed at 2, maybe. I mean, they still would have, the same matchups would have happened, but if they would have beaten Kansas State in a Big 12 title game.
Final AP poll, who's your number 2 team?
It's TCU.
It's still TCU?
It's TCU. It was bad, but it's still TCU. Ohio State's 3.
I remember when Nebraska got shellacked by Miami. They fell to like 7th.
Yeah. Nah, it's still TCU. I don't care.
Well, see, I think they actually already did that. We'll look that up. Also, we'll talk Husker basketball taking on Illinois tonight. Coming up next year on the Ticket Water Cooler, 93.7 The Ticket.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certification. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
A new year means new goals and upgrading, but that doesn't only apply to health and fitness. Mullen Motors can get you into a new vehicle right now and get your 2023 started off the right way. They cleared off their 2022 inventory and have tons of new vehicles to choose from to make sure you get to where you need to be this year. Out with the old and in with the new. Stop by Mullen Motors today, just north of 48th and Lake.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Hey guys, Nick Sadert here, and I want to tell you about my friends at Spine and Sports Chiropractic. I experienced a herniated disc in my lower back a few years ago, and thanks to the folks at Spine and Sports, I got back to feeling 100%. At Spine and Sports, they use the active release technique, which involves the soft tissue and can alleviate headaches, shoulder pain, plantar fasciitis, and more. What I like most about the ART method is that your doctor will construct a plan that fits your needs because the technique is not a cookie-cutter approach. Allow Spine and Sports Chiropractic to help you feel better. Set up your appointment today by giving them a call at 402-261-6841. There's a lot of realtors in Lincoln, but don't get overwhelmed by all the names. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realtor Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate is your go-to option when buying or selling residential and commercial property. Ben's team offers unbeatable customer service and promises to make the buying and selling process as stress-free as possible. Call Ben today at 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate. No pressure, just professionalism.
Pillar Restaurant Group is proud to announce the folding of our brick-and-mortar venue-at-home store, Lincoln's new premier specialty grocers. This store is home to our brand-new Butchery by Venue. Get the finest Nebraska steaks, hand-cut in-house by our butcher, prepared for our restaurants, and available for you to take home. With hand-selected specialty seafood, charcuterie, wine, bourbon, and liquor options. Come in today to see what we have to offer at 70th and Pioneers in the Pioneer Woods Shopping Center. Open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler, brought to you by Wingstop on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is the Ticket Water Cooler here on 93.7 The Ticket, and we've got a little bit more time to talk some sports with you before the happy hour, so go ahead and do that. The final AP poll is out, and it's interesting because I asked Rico before knowing that it was out. I thought maybe I'd seen something about it earlier. If you keep TCU at number 2 after that 65-7 loss, well, the AP poll did decide to keep TCU at number 2. So your final AP rankings, and I love the finality of seasons. Again, I just, it's because that gets etched into the Wikipedias that I look up later to look at
Wikipedias.
how good those years were. Georgia, of course, number 1. TCU stays at number 2.
They should have put Georgia at 2 just to mess with people.
Split the national title with somebody.
Exactly.
Michigan stays at number 3, or I guess they're down 1 to number 3. Ohio State at number 4. Alabama at number 5, Tennessee at number 6, and I thought that would be the case, that those are the 2 best teams that didn't make the playoffs. And of course, my phone craps out on me. Do you have
Penn State at 7,
Yeah.
Washington at 8, Tulane at 9 after their big win against USC.
Huge top 10 finish for Tulane,
and Utah at 10, down 3 spots after losing to Penn State.
If somebody years from now was like, how crazy of a year was it when Tulane finished in the top 10? Are you going to tell them, I didn't really know anything about them until they beat USC?
Yes. I'm not going to fake
that
it.
is
I
the
didn't know-
weird. That's the
I
weird
didn't-
part of this.
I didn't even realize that Tulane was that good until they did the bowl games, and I was like, oh, look,
Yeah.
they're in the, what was it, the Cotton Bowl? I don't remember
Something
what
like
bowl
that,
game
yeah.
it was. I don't remember the bowl game, but they were, they're 11-2, and they're playing USC in a New Year's bowl game. Like, this is amazing. And then they go on and beat them, and they finish in the top 10.
And they are in the American Conference too, so
And they are
sometimes
not
get
making
overlooked
the
there.
switch to the Big 12.
No, they're not going.
So they're just going to stay in the American.
One time they were in the SEC. Did you know that?
I did.
They
They
should've
left the
stayed there.
SEC because it doesn't mean more.
Yeah.
They're in
At
a,
the time.
they're in their own.
The worst decision ever.
They're going to run their own conference now.
Nick Stainer joining us here too of
What's
the
up?
happy
Hi,
hour.
Nick.
Nick, are you surprised to see TCU still number 2? Would you put somebody else number 2?
Yes, I would.
Why?
They deserve to be there last night.
They were in the
I don't
national
wanna-
championship game.
They were. So I guess they are the second best team in the country.
That's it.
I
What are
don't
you going to
know.
put the team that they beat over them? Michigan?
I don't know.
Ohio
State
State
has 2 losses.
What
Ohio
about
State felt
Ohio
like
State?
TCU.
de facto championship
Ohio
game,
State?
basically. Yeah.
Well, they lost to the national champions.
It seems like a pretty good loss,
Yeah.
especially when the number 2 team in the country lost 65-7.
Well, who's to say that TCU wouldn't have done that to Ohio State?
And
They wouldn't
TCU
have.
also lost
They
to
would not.
Kansas
They would not
State.
have. They would not have.
Number 14.
TCU would have lost
Nope.
by to
Ohio State lost to number 1 and number 3.
Yeah, that seems like a
listen to
decent
this.
year.
So in 3 of Georgia's last 4 college football playoff games,
Mhm.
they have allowed a total of 37 points. They allowed 41 to Ohio State.
Well,
They still won the game. I
Ohio
understand
State.
that.
No, I'm not.
They still won the
Ohio
game. I
State
get it,
should have
but
just
hey.
made a kick.
They should have. Noah Ruggles should have never told that Utah player her waved him goodbye.
Yep.
Because that's what
Karma.
Made him, yeah,
Well, to be
it's
fair,
karma,
too, they
but-
needed Noah is not a big leg kicker.
Well, he had the distance.
No,
he
Noah
just
Ruggles is
shanked
just
the
fine,
crap
yeah.
out of it.
What I'm saying is he's never hit a 50-yarder, and they sent him out there for a 50-yarder to get to the national championship.
So
game.
what you're telling me?
This
is-
wasn't money, like a money kick.
So what you're telling me is that it's C.J. Stroud's fault.
I'm telling you, it's C.J. Stroud's fault,
Okay.
or whoever didn't get a few
All right.
more yards.
You hear that?
And able
I
to
did.
get it done.
Oh, I'm annoyed.
The guy who
I'm a big
never,
CJ Stroud
never won a
apologist.
Heisman.
Yep.
Never
go
won a
ahead.
Big Ten
How
title.
much money did you lose on betting on C.J. Stroud this year?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole
Did
lot.
C.J. Stroud win a playoff game?
I only had the one. I only had the no, because
C.J. Stroud's like Baker Mayfield, except without the Heisman.
I only had the one.
So he's worse.
I only had the one that I put on in Council Bluffs way back in February on.
Yeah.
to
Did
him-
you
for him
just
to
do
win the
Stroud?
Heisman. Yeah. Well, and then I did Ohio State to win the national title.
You were
Oh, yeah.
almost on both.
I was so
Well,
man.
on one.
guys. So when
CJ
I
finished
tell you
third,
that
right?
the Ohio State Georgia, yeah, because Max Duggan was second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Ohio State Georgia was going on, I was at my girlfriend's family for a New Year's Eve party,
Oh.
and I was playing pitch, watching the Noah Ruggles kick on my phone,
Mhm.
and when that kick got hooked, I
Just
threw
walk away?
my pitch hand down, and then I had to tell them why I was so frustrated that Ohio State lost the game. And so now I hope my girlfriend's family might think I'm a degenerate.
That'd be like bad hand.
So, yeah, like bad hand. Yeah, I need a misdeal. But no, so it is what it is. It was a little frustrating, but especially when I see the way TCU performed last night and the way Georgia performed. I mean, Georgia's the best team in the country. And I knew that going into like the Ohio State Georgia game.
Does
Georgia is
Georgia-
the best team in the country, but Ohio State had them had a chance, right? And that was without Travion Henderson, without Jackson Smith and Jigba, and with Marvin Harrison Jr. getting hurt in the fourth quarter.
The worst thing
So-
that could have happened to TCU happened. I'm not talking about the national championship game. I'm talking about Ohio State pushing Georgia.
Oh,
if
worst
Georgia
thing,
was able to
100%.
coast against Ohio State, I'm not saying that TCU beats them, but I feel like they maybe take them lightly in the first half and then probably step on the gas in the second half. So TCU, at least it would have been possibly a game for a half. But the worst thing that could have happened with Ohio State almost beating Georgia
So
and
Georgia
waking them up. Because, I mean, they didn't coast through the entire season, but, I mean, you're undefeated. You're feeling on top of the world. You're defending national champions. Like, your quarterback is a Heisman finalist. You're feeling real good about yourself. And then you go up against a team who's, missing a top receiver, missing two top receivers, and missing a running back, and then you're thinking their defense isn't that sturdy this year. You're thinking, oh, we're going to coast against them, and they're just going blow for blow for blow, and then you knock out their number one receiver. They're still right there, and they have a chance. Shank the kick. You're sitting there in the locker room like, I guarantee Kirby Smart's like, you didn't win this game. Ohio State lost this game.
Well, it's
I
interesting.
agree. I agree with that.
I thought the post game too, if you listen to the coaches, I always like listening to the coaches after the game. And first of all, it's still, I know TCU made the title game and we had a lot of time to prepare for it. It still looks weird to see Sonny Dykes like with a post game championship like talk. It's just like, this feels like a dream. And not necessarily a good dream, just a weird dream that Sonny Dykes.
Well,
is at TCU.
I told you off air, and I'm not going to bring any other teams into it, but Sonny Dykes, although TCU was 5-7 last year, Gary Patterson is a great head coach. And I'm sure that program was in a really good spot. They just weren't winning the games they were supposed to win or winning enough games, obviously, which is why he stepped away voluntarily or whatever. So
winning enough games, and I think it just might have gotten stale.
it was just time.
Like, I feel like that happens when you're.
I mean, he has a statue.
mediocre.
He has a statue outside the stadium while he was coaching.
It's not like he's I'm not trying to call Gary Patterson mediocre for what he did at TCU, because there were a couple good ones, good seasons. Obviously, the ones with Andy Dalton stick out. But like, I think there's such a thing as when you're not winning championships, like at the level Nick Saban is, or if you're not winning championships at all, whether that be conference or national. I think it's very likely to get stale after a certain number of times.
Unless you're Iowa.
Unless you're Iowa. The only place it's never stale
For
is
whatever
in Iowa
reason.
City. So I don't know. Did you guys see Wisconsin is now quarterback U?
No, I saw that. I was going to ask you, who else transferred there?
Mississippi State backup quarterback. So now they have Tanner Mordecai for the 37,000-year-old from SMU, and then they have Nick Evers, a very long time, like 7 years.
Yeah.
Then Nick Evers from Oklahoma.
Yeah, the backup.
Then you have I'm blanking on the name, the Mississippi State backup quarterback, and then they also got a quarterback recruit out of the state of Texas.
Well, they are going slinging the ball.
Yeah, they're going to an air raid,
baby.
I can't wait for an air raid in that Wisconsin snow.
I just love that. I think in history we're going to look back, and I hope it's this case because I've been arguing it for years. I think Wisconsin does feel like they got the stale, same old results, doing the same Barry Alvarez way, and now they're switching it. And Nebraska at the very same time is going, no, let's bring in fullbacks. Let's do what Wisconsin's been doing to win this, and be so good in the Big Ten all this time. And that's what I think wins in the Big Ten. So I think, all that being said, Luke Fickell's a heck of a defensive coordinator. So if you have a really good defense, I don't care what offense you run.
He's been in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that you'll have a chance. You'll have a fighter's chance, but. I think that I don't think that's the way to go for Wisconsin. I think that they are getting stale. I did say this, that we would kind of hit on it right before we get out, so I want to do that. Nebraska basketball hosts Illinois tonight. Illinois has got a few transfers of their own that are making an impact for that team. Of course, no longer is Ayo DeSumo in there. No longer is Kofi Cockburn in there, but they're still a pretty good team that has victories over two top 10 teams this season that are in the top 10 currently, Texas and UCLA. So you can't take them lightly. They haven't had the best start to the Big Ten season. They did beat Wisconsin. So it's one of those teams that I guess maybe you could kind of feel like Nebraska's maybe the junior version of that, because what we saw against Purdue probably doesn't have enough on the resume to quite say that they can, come up there and beat those teams the way that they did. They have a top 10 win against Creighton too. They just don't. Creighton hasn't stayed in the top 10 realm.
If you beat Illinois, it's a
really
resume
win.
builder.
Yeah, and it gets Nebraska to 500.
Yeah,
in the Big Ten.
It'll feel a lot better. So I don't know, just. This team is weird, and you're going up against a Purdue team, and you take them to the wire, then you get blown out, then you get blown out by Indiana, and you come back, you get blown up by Kansas State. You get blown up by all these teams, but then you always go back and you remember, well, they did take the number one team in the nation.
Yeah.
They're not number one anymore, but at the time, not at the time they were number two, but you take number one team in the nation to the edge. And you probably should have won that game. You beat a top 10 team in Creighton, who is still in the top 25, but has dropped considerably since then. And then you face some of these other teams, and it's just like, oh, we forgot how to play basketball sometimes.
Well, it's the shooting. It's not the greatest offensive bunch. And I think that'll be interesting to see how that goes on tonight. And I think a good resume for what they've been doing. Obviously, Griesel has a good low post game. Walker lives in the post. Illinois is going to shoot a bunch of threes. It's going to be interesting for Nebraska if they're going to try to match that or kind of play their game. I like them shooting like they did this last game that they won 15, 16 threes. Mm-hmm. I know the modern day basketball heads would tell you shoot a lot more, make a lot more points, all that stuff. But I don't think Nebraska, this is as good as this team is. This is, as far as the finality, the final season numbers, this is the worst 3-point shooting team that Fred Hoiberg has had.
Yeah. This Illinois team, like you just said, likes to shoot a lot of threes. Are they going to double in the post and try to rush out to contest those shots still, or are they just going to tell Derek Walker, look, it's you down there. We got to stay out here to defend the perimeter?
I don't know. I'm excited for this game. It's an 8 p.m. tip off. I believe BTN. Is it BTN? Either way, it's on PBA. So if you can get down there, do that. We'll have the post game show here on 93.
Maybe there's more concession stands open.
Yeah, and the concession stands are supposed to be better.
Maybe
not
yet.
More opportunities.
Maybe not yet, but they're working on it.
I hope they have a chug cam tonight.
They won't.
In honor of our good friend, the guy that's dead to us.
The guy who we don't talk about.
Who is that? I've never heard.
Yeah, never heard his name.
Yeah, Nathan Brennan.
He's moving on. But are you gonna go, Nick? You gonna chug some beers?
I'm not gonna. If I do end up going, I will not be chugging.
He will be working, Bach.
Oh,
he can't chug beers while he's working.
I will not be chugging beers. I hope to make it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to.
It's a late one, so it's
a late one.
Trying to get people to go out there.
It's a late one, and 5 a.m. comes.
That is right. Yeah, you're not wrong with early break. All right, that'll do it for the Ticket Water Cooler Happy Hour coming up next. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 93.7 The Ticket.